Previously on Miss President.
We believe that you have so much that you can be able to change and you can be able to use to mentor the youth and to become a great leader. Betty Adera, one thing that comes out very clearly is your work with the youth and your passion with the youth, even your personal projects and generally even in the assignments that you've been given. And we thought that's a very brilliant perspective because the youth are the future of this country. And because of that passion, we feel that we can give you another chance to be in the academy. Anne Waruguru Kiai. And in the last 10 weeks, you have come out as a very strong character. Today, I don't know what happened. Because it is only today that you have shown us that you did not get the assignment right. We will give you another chance back into the academy.
And now, only the top 5 remain. Welcome back! But this week, back is a key word, as we are looking back to go forward. And what do I mean by this? Before I explain myself, let me ask this one question. I'm in Mekuliza for the last 23 weeks. Wow, 23 weeks. Is Kenya ready for a female president? Will it be forward thinking if we say the answer is yes? Well, back to my initial story about looking back. We can only judge how much progress someone has made by looking back at where they came from. In the case of our top 5, this ranges from small steps of change in some aspects to giant leaps of transformation in others. So in honor of these women, let's refresh our knowledge as you look back to where they all began. See where they are now, so that from today, you can be the judge and decide if they have what it takes to get to where they want to go. Ni story gani itakubamba? Welcome to this very special episode of Miss President. Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected. 16 made it to the finals, and we went to visit each one of them in their counties to learn more about them. Now, only the top 5 remain. The final battle is on to see who will emerge as the winner after all these months of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations, and eliminations to eventually be voted in by you as Miss President. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants. Fate set the ball rolling for these 5 ladies in various ways, leading them to take up something new in their quest for leadership.
I mentor almost 200 young women who have gone through stuff in life and just need mentorship and direction. So one of them is the one who saw the advert. She's called Emma Jerry. And she rallied the rest and they're like, hey, guys, look at this announcement. Don't you think our mom, and they call me mom, don't you think mom, befits this because of what she's done to us? The minute I took a keen look at one question after another, then is when reality hit me at what this really was. And I said, oh my gosh, my mentees were actually right.
Somehow in between my interactions at the assembly, we have quite a number of youth who we talk to, who come to us for conversation and input on new opportunities that are there. One of them comes and he was carrying a bunch of forms, and he says, Pushimiwa, there is this women leadership competition that is going on, and we have had applications running, but Homa Bay County, we feel that we still need to have more people applying. So I took it and looked at it, and it piqued my interest. Talked about community work, talked about leadership strength, and talked about competition, talked about training.
So I first heard of Miss President through a friend. I actually thought Miss President would be more of those conference trainings up to a stage, and then they would train us for a while before we start competitions. So I was not prepared to take my L on TV, for lack of a better word. Because I was like, okay, so I'm going to be seen on screen being kicked out. This is going to be huge. I didn't tell my mom. So when the email came, I sat down with my dad because I looked at it and it required me to take a break. So when I was packing with my sister and she was telling me, just carry 2 clothes. What if you're kicked out? And I told her, let me pack for 30 days because I'll be optimistic and then things will work out. And they did.
I got to hear about Miss President on social media, and then we had a discussion with a bunch of women that I talked to, like our Nyeri Women Network, and we were wondering whether this would be a course that we would be interested in, and most importantly, a course that would have us. Because sometimes there is this stereotype on women leadership whereby we think about the Nairobi woman, the urban woman, as being the ones who are able to be in these kind of programs. The application required me to talk about myself, and as I answered those questions, it was clear to me that I had skills to offer, not only to my people in Nyeri County, but to the country.
I heard about Miss President on Facebook at first. There's a friend of mine who'd actually posted on another friend's timeline and told them that this would be interesting, so they asked them to post. So I went through the concept and looked at it, and then I was like, this sounds interesting. And then someone else sent me the post as well on my WhatsApp and told me, I think this is something that you need to apply. Again, in a group of girls that we are in that are, it's a women leadership group as well. It came again and they said, you guys need to apply for this. So that's how I applied for Miss President.
Theirs were among the thousands of applications received. While some ladies got a direct invitation to the top 70 to encourage their participation as members of marginalized groups, others had to attend the very first set of regional auditions.
When I walked into the room, in the first audition, and there were 3 judges just seated there, and it felt like, oh my gosh, I'm doing an exam. But for me, I walked into that room with full resolve to give it my best shot, to be real, and to speak from my heart.
I have interventions that focus mainly on prevention, mitigation, and response to all forms of gender-based violence, and I also occupy this.
So when I left that particular room, I felt it in my heart that Media Focus is going to call me again, and they actually did.
At the auditions, I wanted to run away, very far away from the venue. But then I remembered about my 2-year-old daughter who looks up to me for so many things. And for her, I stayed and I looked at those cameras and I told them everything that I had to say concerning all my efforts. And I was very impressed by myself.
As a country, if we are to move forward, if we are to attain our Vision 2030, and if we are to comprehensively say that we are a country that unites all of us together, we have to bring our women on board.
This is Kisumu County.
I went into the auditions in Kisumu with one thing in mind, that I was going to have a conversation about my ability and my capacity to be shortlisted to come into the academy. And for me, that was my focus as I drove from Homa Bay. I knew that, number one, from experience, there are key issues that I needed to highlight. So I went in and, of course, highlighted them.
I have set forth an agenda for developing the country, and I am assured and I am well aware of what it has taken for us to draw up a lot of our plans.
First of all, I didn't expect some of those questions that were asked, but I did a quick think as I went through answering the questions, and then it went well. But it was quite something. That was really interesting. It wasn't like the usual interviews that you go for.
As a president, I would like to have a nation that is well-deserving, a nation where the people have access to good education, affordable healthcare, and good security.
After a rigorous stage of vetting and selection, these 5 ladies arrived in Nairobi amidst a group of 70, ready to put their best foot forward.
I kept time, and when I got, to the place of residence, the place was packed. And reality hit me that, whoa, remember, Betty, this is a national thing. It was being a part of so many women, within a confined place, following rules, and you have to wake up at this time, you have to start at this time, all of you have to be at the bus by this time. There was the opportunity to mingle and get to know people, but there was also the opportunity, to find your own privacy and get to do whatever it is you needed to do, outside of the academy. And that really helped me a lot, because I came into the academy also with my work, the regular work that I do.
I had to make it. I had come a mighty long way from 1,000 women down to 71. In my heart, I knew that I had to do whatever that needed to be done to demonstrate to both myself and to everyone who was going to watch me on TV that we can come from our very humble beginnings, doing ordinary things in empowering communities, and make extraordinary impact. I was swimming in a pool of brilliant women, strong women, and I had to find my space. And I have to admit, the very first time I struggled to find my space. I struggled to raise my voice.
She got this.
So the email says I should be checked in by 3 p.m. At 3, I'm still at school. I'm waiting for my dean to sign a letter for me, because that was the last day of taking a break. I had to wait up to around 5. I got stuck in traffic for like hours. So when I came, I was the last one, or almost the last to come. It was dark. I met a group of them in the living room at the reception. And in my head, I'm like, how am I going to beat these women? Because just by looking at them, I can see the English flowing. I may have to gather my language first to make my cases and my defense. I was scared. I was tense.
When I came in, the first thing I was looking out for was how many of us are pregnant, and will the show take us? As I looked, I was like, okay, we have women who are expectant. So it means we are in a safe environment.
So the first time I came into the academy, and first of all, I didn't come quite early, so I found a group of women in like a circle, talking to each other, and I was like, okay, so how are we going to approach this? How do we get to know these people? But I was pleasantly surprised to see that the ladies had a lot of energy. That was really interesting. I remember we had some sort of short introduction of each of us. So it was a quick way of knowing what people are like, what their strengths are, and where to place who. And I could quickly tell, this one is competition. This one tutapelekana lakini kuna mali nitamwachia. That sort of thing. But it was pleasant to meet so many different women from different parts of this country that are so talented, that have done so much. And it was exciting. So I was like, this competition is going to be great because we have women who have content.
there's a very huge gap between local mwananchi and the leadership. And so for me, the first thing that I would want to do is have a public participation policy, whereby mwananchi, right from the lower level of the ward, they're able to participate in things that directly affect them.
You are watching Miss President. Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected. 16 made it to the finals, and we went to visit each one of them in their counties to learn more about them. Now, only the top 5 remain. The final battle is on to see who will emerge as the winner after all these months of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations and eliminations to eventually be voted in by you as Miss President. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants. The reality of life at the academy was completely unexpected for all of them.
The setup, the way the training rooms were set up, really, from day one, I felt presidential.
I think time has come for me to show Kenyans at large and the world that it is tenable to think about a female president.
Oh my, it was quite an experience.
Just getting past this first stage of elimination is already a sign of success. So ladies,
Every turn I looked, everywhere I looked, there was one more brilliant woman than I was. One more woman doing extraordinary things, empowering communities in bigger ways than I even was. But I had to remind myself that I too serve in a public space. I think that women should be hired because of what they have to offer.
So it felt like being thrown in a pool, and you're now literally surviving to save your life, because I was in the second auditions group. When the first group came back, some were crying. I was like, am I ready to cry? Do I have all this energy to, absorb all the emotions that come with this? I kept asking myself, Naomi, what have you done? In the room, people were pacing up and down, trying to get a few things about the Constitution.
You ready for this?
Yes, totally. Even that Constitution that I've never read much, if I'm asked anything, I'll answer what I do. So I went there and I faced Judge Zippy the first day. My legs were shaking. I was wondering, now, what is this? But with the first question, when she asked me to introduce myself, I got very comfortable. And I realized it wasn't that hard. I started a social movement called the Kesho Alliance. We basically support girl-child education. So even after I left the room, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I knew the feedback from the judges would be, you're going to remain.
I didn't know.
I felt very confident in that space. And I looked at all these 70 women, and I was, in my mind, trying to gauge, so who is very strong? Who do I learn from? It was actually a nervous moment.
My 41 years have been well spent in my community. Yes, I grew up in public service, and I feel what I'm doing now is where I'm best.
You've come here thinking that you are the best. Then suddenly you realize, hey, wait a minute, there are other women who are equally good. And so you have to be smart about it, and you have to give it your all. That first instant, you've got to make an impression to these judges.
Congratulations, you're going to make it to the next level.
No, when they called the 6 names, I was like, these are some of the best people. Yeah, it's going.
As leadership is not exercised in a vacuum, these ladies were put into groups for their tasks while at the academy. Immediately having to work with ladies who were practically strangers was an experience in building rapport, creating friendships, and expanding networks.
So can you type it and then we move to the next item within the organization?
Okay. Which group wants to start?
Article 10 of the Constitution recognizes national values that enable all Kenyans to access opportunities on a non-discriminative basis.
We identified the types of conflict in the community scenario as follows. Intrapersonal conflict, especially with regard to the murderer and the parents of both the victim and the perpetrators. Interpersonal conflict, especially between the murderer and his mother, his father, and the victim's father.
We wanted to attain universal healthcare, improve capacity of healthcare workers, improve coverage of trained healthcare workers, and the agencies would be national government doing policy development and county governments doing service delivery.
One of the first tasks the ladies faced at the academy as they formed groups was to create political parties and come up with an ideology, a task they did to quite dramatic outcomes.
I am glad, therefore, to present the documents of our party, our registration certificate symbolically, our list of party members.
We stand on the side of ensuring that everybody has equal access to opportunity if you put us in power. Thank you.
We are losing so many people, especially women in our places are not seen in power because negotiated democracy demands men to be on the front line.
TMSP! TMSP! Mbegu safi! Why the mustard seed? Because we believe that that very small seed grows into becoming a large tree that will then serve the entire country.
We want to make it very clear that we are committed to free and fair judicial processes.
To shift the dynamics and keep them on their toes, these ladies had to constantly shuffle their groups, vote in new leaders, and occasionally take up the mantle of leadership themselves.
As of now, each group does not have a president. You have 2 minutes to elect a new one. Starting now, 2 minutes to elect a new president. 2 minutes.
The continuous change kept them on the edges of their seat and meant they constantly had to put their best foot forward.
There are 4 groups or 4 political parties. Some have full, I think 3 of them have full numbers or members. One is missing a member or 2. So rather than 16, we're seeing 15. We want you to form a coalition. At the end of it, we want 3 groups of 5 members each. How you negotiate that is really up to you.
Synergy. It's a competition.
It's competition. Friendship is done. Shamala had acquired that team, and the only person who was left vulnerable, actually the 2 legal minds were left vulnerable.
The contestants formed 3 coalitions of 5 members each, with each coalition required to elect a president who will represent them. Eventually, the time to work in groups came to an end.
Congratulations to the 10 of you. I'd like to announce that you are all on probation. And for that reason, from today, no more groups. It's an individual battle to the end. Each person has to fight their own race. You're either running to the top or walking to the top. I hope that the best person wins.
I had not been in that kind of an environment, in years. And I told myself that I just have to figure out how to, just give it my best at every assignment, that we are given.
It was an intense environment. the sleepless night.
Miss President Leo, I could have pressure, presidential pressure.
And I realized, and it took me back to when I went back to school. When I had my 4 children, I had a job, and I had school, and I realized that back then, I could read the whole night. So one thing I appreciate is that, because it's important that you get pushed to your limits, and I did get pushed to my limits.
The academy reminded me a lot about high school, because I went to a boarding high school, and my high school was also a competitive high school. No one wanted to wake the other up, because everyone is just trying to see how they can make it and get down with the day and make their presentations.
At the beginning of the show, obviously, there are people who came in not being themselves. But after a while, when you're in it, you cannot pretend for so long. Your true self comes out. So away with group dynamics and now into individuality. And that is what was very interesting. And also, again, the pressure, the training, the assignments we used to be given, and how you manage that vis-a-vis the next morning showing a fresh face. Of course, the judges don't want to know if you had a long night, if sometimes you only slept for 1 hour or 30 minutes, or you went looking for coffee just to keep you awake. At some point, I just felt like, wow, are we studying for a master's degree or something here?
At this individual stage, the contestants' training sometimes involved going out for field visits. These trips provided a deeper level of insight into what they learned at the academy.
Before we go in here, let's first of all just have a quick look at this wonderfully fun idea. So you know that a big challenge all around the world is electrical waste. These things live forever. How do you get rid of that? It's not biodegradable, and we're throwing away our phones, our TVs. What are we going to do with them? Fashion waste is another industry that we don't know what to do with, because we have so much disposable fashion now, but it's also not degradable. What are we going to do with it? We can make furniture out of it.
It is just like opening your mind from paper to the practical aspect of it by the seeing is believing approach, which we did today.
We were able to relate, our day-to-day experiences to innovation, using our own struggles to think of how we can put in systems that can make not only our lives easier and better, but for the world.
A real turning point came with the airing of the first episode on TV. The enthusiastic reactions were far more than they expected.
The feedback from many, especially of the young people who I support, was that, yeah, we saw you on TV. And then the rest were like, oh my God, she's already the Miss President. She's going to remove Uhuru from power. Not all of them, had understood, the scope. But there were 2 who told me that when we heard you for the first time, we could hear our voices in the things that you were saying. And that to me made me feel that, yes, this is actually the place I really need to be.
The first feedback I got was from the women who hold my hand and support me. And their aim and objective was very clear, that I have to go to the final end. I have to finish strong. My solution is to develop an Android-supported mobile phone application called Ukiona Piga Picha. So I feel that even having made it to where I have reached today, it is a very big win for myself and for the very many people who support me back at home, because I have been able to demonstrate consistency and principles, and I'm very proud of myself.
My village people from very far, all of them were calling my mom. And like, we have seen someone like you or your daughter on TV. What is this about? Now everyone was questioning me, and the feedback and the outcome of the first episode, it was very encouraging.
Watching that episode 1 and seeing the responses from other contestants was an eye-opener, because then I could be able to tell, how do I learn from the show. I came in episode 4, and I could be able to see the strengths and unique leadership abilities of each and every person.
we will say your faith has saved you. Congratulations.
I was like, wait. Oh my God. Wait.
I'm still in the race.
Yes!
I am still in the race.
First of all, I was nervous because I was like, what am I going to see? But I was actually happy with myself. I felt I did a very good job and I got very good feedback from people. So for me, while I was in training and hearing that feedback, it gave me a lot of motivation to just make sure these people who have so much believe in me, who feel that I can actually get this, I cannot afford to let them down. So I've got to take this very seriously.
You are watching Miss President. Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected. 16 made it to the finals, and we went to visit each one of them in their counties to learn more about them. Now, only the top 5 remain. The final battle is on to see who will emerge as the winner after all these months of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations and eliminations to eventually be voted in by you as Miss President. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants. Every week, somebody faced a hot seat, and when their time came to face the fire, their reactions changed week by week. It's time to find out who is going to stay and who's going to go home.
The hot seat, by the way, is not just a hot seat. It was actually hot, like literally, literally hot.
Listening to your answers, starting with Betty. Betty, Sheng is an emerging culture.
You know, my heart kept on moving from here to here, you know, because you don't know literally what the judges look at. They are judges at the end of the day. The purpose of it is to help to make someone look at your performance from an external eye and point out to you things about you that you needed to have done differently.
Always a tough task that needs to be done.
My first experience on the hot seat was devastating. I was not prepared to be on the hot seat. And so my mind was screaming. I was screaming internally. And I had nothing useful to say.
We now got 4 more people to come forward, and Waruguru.
What do you think are the issues that the pharmaceutical industry has with that particular clause or the doctors?
One of the most pertinent issues on that is quality. As a country, are we flooding the market with substandard quality of the medication that we are getting? So I rambled my way out of that experience. But then in my other subsequent experiences on the bench, I learned how to compose myself. I learned how to fight for my ideas, right or wrong. And I learned how to hold my head high. And that is what I honestly believe has gotten me this far in the competition. Yes.
Harun Mohammed.
The feeling of being in a hot seat. Every day I watch the show, even the episodes that have passed, and I know this is the day the judges called me up. The feeling is still the same. I always get this funny feeling of butterflies flying in my stomach. Things are hot, things are cold. I want to wear a jacket, I don't want to. You know, it was just too much emotions, a lot of nerves. But the fact that you have to come back from the hot seat and make your defense is what's even more interesting, because you don't have time to process the emotions. Yes, you've been called. Now present, make your defense, and that's it.
People, different communities get to understand each other. You can ask questions and all that.
Nerea Amondi.
Being on the hot seat, number one, first of all, because my name is Nerea, it starts with N, I will always look at the judges' pronunciations and try to read lips. Is Nerea coming? Okay, then once I am on probation, the one thing that I can say is first I got pissed off. I'm like, why did I get nominated to be on probation?
We have a lot of worry We are wondering whether at this point of the competition, do you deserve to be here? People are talking vaguely, beautiful names, beautiful words, academic language. However, what are you doing? How can you make it better?
And as a president then, how would you act and react when questions are thrown at you? Do you lose your cool? Or do you keep firm? Do you keep focused? I think by the time I got to the last probation, I think I was actually smiling getting up there. And I would like Kenyans to see that I can defend them, because that is what a president does.
You do it because you're passionate about changing your country. And that is what I do.
Irene Mayaka, please come forward.
How do you propose to raise funds to finance youth micro projects?
To actually have a bill in place at the county assembly through the county government that directly and deliberately supports the youth in whatever it is that they are doing.
That sounds like it's going to solve one person at a time. We need to start solving 10 people at a time.
So it was an entire adrenaline rush. Of course, it's not something that I would want to have every day, but once in a while, so that it just jumpstarts you to just realize in this life, things are not easy. You are not naturally all the time the best. You still have some learning to do.
Miss President has had a profound effect on these ladies' lives, with some trainings particularly standing out for them for various reasons.
The trainings was one of the things I appreciated most. Most of them were topics outside my comfort zone, outside my line of work, outside my training or my career, and they were new to me, like national security, for instance.
Anything that goes contrary to what the Constitution says about our national security is null and void.
Because these are topics that would help me. I'm using them even right now, outside of the academy. And then also to just listen to how people are interpreting the same thing we are being taught, and how to tackle, the question in such a way as to come out as you're informed. The whole aspect of unemployment, especially of youth, leave them vulnerable towards radicalization.
One of the most interesting topics for me was on security, and understanding just how dynamic and how unique our country is as far as security is concerned. And it gave me a challenge to just go back home and try and make my people understand that security does not only end at the footsteps of the police or officers or the law enforcement agencies, but that we have a bigger responsibility as Kenyans to take a very proactive role in ensuring that we are safe. One of the greatest threats facing Kenya security is negative ethnicity. And I have found new commitment and a new place of engagement to ensure that my county, and mostly the young people in my county, do not end down that road of being victims of terrorism and violent extremism.
The time we were taken to the museum, who would know there are so many insects, and why would someone be even interested to know about insects? So getting to understand that they had an impact on the fertility of our soil, the circulation of the kind of air that we are breathing, I wouldn't think those things are there. I didn't even think the museum had shelves full of insects.
But there's no way we can talk about food security if we don't understand the pests. They always remain a problem. Encourage those people in the county that we have deficit or disconnect in knowledge that needs to be crossed. We have to embrace conservation biology and more so the ecology of invertebrates, because they are everything.
It was on national security because it's a critical component of a president's role to understand and lead the country, which is safe, make sure our borders are not porous. But it's also an area that I have not been quite familiar with. So I got to understand a bit about how it all works. But just to sit there and critically analyze what it takes to have a safe country, it was very intense. Appreciated that journey, and I now know what it takes for a president to make a decision that touches on Kenya's security.
The one that was most exciting, or there are many, but the one that still stands out for me was the Green Africa.
The reason why we established this center is that because people could come looking for seeds, but there was nowhere to get seeds from.
It made me realize that we have a country that is so rich in terms of agriculture and its resources and the sort of things that we can do in this country. But we don't take advantage of what we know. We don't take advantage of the talent that we have. We don't take advantage of the availability of resources for us to be able to create different things. And just the visits to Carefree and out there, and seeing these scientists, young ladies, young men, who spoke so passionately about science. And I was looking at them like, are you guys talking about a movie? Because you sound so excited. It's unbelievable. So for me, that was quite interesting.
DNA extraction is a method where you use chemicals to actually grind down the leaf sample or any sample from a plant and then come up with DNA itself.
As the Miss President journey draws to a finish line, these ladies consider themselves definitely not the same ladies who first faced the judges during auditions.
Miss President journey has changed me in very many ways. There is no place I go right now that someone at random, including children, does not say, Miss President! You know, and I have to like turn and wave, or if they're close by, shake their hands or say a word of hello. And that makes me always conscious, you know, about how do I refine, you know, my messaging to be in tandem with all these things that we have been taught, you know, while we have been in the academy.
The journey through Miss President has changed me in more ways than one. I want to be a leader in my county. I have gained valuable skills that put me in a very beautiful position and a very different, unique position to actually lead my people back in Nyeri County. I am inspired and encouraged to be better. I feel confident. I feel like I can take on the world now. And this is quite different from who I was before I joined the Miss President Academy.
Miss President has completely changed me. Because now, people are calling you up for events because they feel like your presence would be of importance. Because you're Miss President, you have to own up to the title and show up for the community. One thing I'm proud of, and I'm very excited to even say it, is the fact that I'm getting to do this at this age. And maybe that's something I would want to encourage the young people. Take risks. Don't always say you're in campus or you still have time. No one has time.
I think I have grown in terms of understanding where people's emotions come from, because it has been quite an emotional journey. I've come to understand how people make decisions that sometimes are irrational and they act in haste. So I've been able to stay, learn to be focused and not get sidetracked, to lose sight of that ball. It's quite important for me, and I've learned that from each and every competitor.
The pressure, the training, the assignments we used to be given, this has pushed us to the limit, but it helped. Because now, when I look at myself and how I articulate issues out there in the county assembly, when I'm legislating on behalf of the people of Nyamira, it's very different. My level of thinking is very different. And all this is thanks to the knowledge that I acquired right here in the Miss President Academy.
All these trainings definitely honed the leadership traits that our top 5 already had, as their families and friends back home can testify. One reason why you think she can make it?
She's charismatic, she's very enthusiastic, and she's helping the community, yeah. So I guess heads up and thumbs up, she'll win.
And from the word go, she has been a leader even when she was small, even in primary school. She's never tired of listening to needy people, needy children or women.
She's Miss Fix It. Yeah, anything anafanya, I know she can fix it. Hata mweke kwa the crowd ya watu atatoka.
She's intelligent. She's a go-getter. And the in-depth of knowledge within which she tackles these issues of special interest is captivating.
Betty has a positive energy that's very infectious. She readily picks up responsibility. She believes in a continuous room for improvement.
They once told us what they want to be. Having seen the growth and change among the top 5, we leave you to decide what your person of choice can do for you and for the nation. These 5 contenders are on the last lap, and the finish line is approaching. Watch things speed up, challenges step up, and the heat ramp up as they continue to push the boundaries and face you, the people, once again next week. Got something to say or share? Maybe about the contestants? Ama pengine show imekubamba sana. Please share your thoughts. Tweet us on @media_focus, Facebook @mediafocus on Africa, and check us out on Instagram @mediafocus on Africa. With this week's stories in mind, I leave you with this very important quote. The key to realizing a dream is to focus not on success, apana, but significance, and then even the small steps and little victories along your path will take on a greater meaning. That was said by Oprah Winfrey. Next week, the contestants will be face to face with people on the ground as they go on the campaign trail to connect with the people, including you at home. Will they prove to you that they have what it takes to be Miss President? All I can tell you is you dare not miss next week's fire episode. Na usiseme sikukuambia. Next week.